Number 7, budget review. 7A, Martha T. Berry, Medical Care Facility. Kevin Evans.
Kevin hasn't been here for review. He's going to give a short review first and then do his budget.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Kevin, could you turn your mic on?
Yes. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. So which one am I up there?
My understanding is you're going to give us a little bit of a review and then get into your budget details.
Yes,
correct?
thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that is correct.
right.
I was asked to just give a brief update before I do that, so here we go. I'm pleased to say that after 6 years of being a one-star facility, we are now a 3-star according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. We continue to be that through this year. That will be frozen while they change their system, so we're going to be that for a while. Our goal is to get to a 4 or a 5-star in 2 years, but I'm pleased that we are headed in the right direction. Also, we have the National Research Corporation do an external review. The forms for this survey come directly from the National Research Corporation to the residents and family members and to our employees. They get they each get one that gets turned back in anonymously. But if you take a look at our family and resident satisfaction first, you can see that we're improving in every area. Would we recommend it as a place to live? We went from 84% to 91.7%. Management responsiveness also increased. You also see staff confidence, then we can have trust in them. That's also increased, as well as staff explaining things understandably. We're not where we want to be on this, but we're headed in the right direction. I'm pleased to show that we're making positive improvements on that according to the families. Also, according to our staff, job satisfaction went from 41% to 50.9% according to the same satisfaction. We have more metrics than that, but I just want to give you a high-level view on that. Our census does continue to be low, as is reflected in the budget when we get to that. We did anticipate that, as we had talked about earlier this year. We're still roughly 8% better than the rest of the county. And as we talked about, some of the factors include new and remodeled buildings, assisted living creating some more market competition, as well as pilot payment projects and insurance prohibitions for us being a 1-star. We're pleased to say that that's gone, and we're beginning to reconnect with some of the affordable care, accountable care organizations to begin working with them on some of that. Our current projects, as we talked about, our engineering study for the generator is almost complete. It's 95% complete. We have door access control for security for our residents, as well as active shooter, some of the new emergency preparedness requirements. Right now, we've had it a third of the way installed. The infrastructure is installed. We'll be putting the doors in the next few months. Our call light system is in progress as well. Our kitchen and dining renovation, I'm pleased to say that we're moving in a great direction on that. We should have some drawings in the next month or two that I'll bring to the commissioners to show you where we're headed with that as well. We also recognize that as part of the active shooter and security is the video monitoring upgrade. We're going to be using the same video systems and platforms that the county has, so we can cross connect. So if the county or the sheriff's department needs access to our cameras, they can get that. Also want you to know we're taking a conservative approach to remodeling. We believe that part of the competition, being a 17-year-old building with all the new facilities that we have going around the competition, we need to do a facelift, but we're also only doing that with money that we have. So when you see at the end of the year, you'll see more investment coming out of our cash fund, our cash balance. We're doing that, but we're only doing that as we're able to do that. Okay. As it relates to our budget, our budget is fairly self-evident. We had the first full year to be able to look at our actual expenses, and we noticed that we've had some ability to curb some costs. We're bending some cost curve in some areas. You'll also see, because of our anticipated census reduction continuing, that our revenue is somewhat depressed from this year as far as expectations go. I don't believe I need to take a deep dive in that unless the commissioners have any questions on that.
speakers, but Commissioner Drollet.
Yeah, I didn't know if you're asking for a question about the wages, or if you're finished with your presentation, you're asking for questions in general.
I'm finished with my presentation.
Okay. My basic question is, is my understanding the county does not provide general funds to Martha T. Is that a correct assessment?
It is correct.
Okay. Then I guess my question is, what benefits does the county provide to Martha T.?
That's a very good question. We still work with the county on the pension. They manage that pension. We provide the money into that pension, but we still have some people on the old pension system. We work as far as the county provides some education. We work together on education on some of that. We also have some cost savings with bidding, for example, with the video program. The county had already had a contract with a couple of vendors, and because we didn't have to go and rebid that, they allowed us to use the same contract. We actually had a cost savings on that, on the preparation of that. So those are some of the areas. We also work with F&O on, they do a great program on utilities. So we do a direct cost pass-through on the utilities, but we use the agreements that the county has in F&O. Those are just some of the areas. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, it helps answer. I'm just wondering, because the county doesn't provide direct financial support, why is there a relationship at this point?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you, Commissioner Drollet. We exist because the county asks us to. We are a safety net for those that can't provide care for themselves. And under Public Act 280, we only are in existence because the county has need of a county medical care facility. It is important that we have that safety net because there are so many financial models that are based on Medicare and private pay. The people that aren't cared for are those that can't afford to, and their health are failing. So the county, in its wisdom many years ago, long before I got here, decided to have a county medical care facility. That is the social safety net. The relationship is because of that. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think it is. It would, though, it's still perplexing, though, if we are a facility in some respects of last resort for those who can't afford other options, but we're not providing financial support. Would that continue to exist if, for example, Martha T., if you guys decided to spin off, if you're already being funded under your current model, using your current revenues that you currently get, is there really a benefit? I can understand why Martha T. started, by the county, and it was a time when the county was providing, direct financial support and that sort of thing. But I just, wondering if that's history now and no longer relevant. It's an interesting part of the Martha T. history, but not necessarily relevant to moving into the future.
I believe, Commissioner, it's entirely up to the commissioners here, but if you're asking my opinion, it is profoundly important that we remain related to the commissioners and the county. We have an advantage being that social safety net as being a Class 3 facility. What that means is we have a little bit more reimbursement on the Medicaid side of it to be able to provide for services to those that can't provide care for themselves. In other business models, they require you to go after the Medicare dollars, which are the higher dollars. And that's a Class 1 facility, both the for-profit and not-for-profit facilities go there. If we were to, and I'll get to another thing that you said there, but if we were to lose that, the county would lose $3 million in direct funds coming directly to the facility because of the reimbursement model.
Just real quick, the Class 3, does a Class 3 mean that it's a government entity? Is that what the Class 3 means, or what?
Class 3 is a designation of a county medical care facility. Yes.
Okay, so that designation is specific to being directly either owned or affiliated in some capacity with a county.
We are affiliated because the county wished us to be. To go back to what you had said, if we chose to spin off, we couldn't actually.
I see.
We're not our own entity in that respect. We are a uniquely presented component of the county. But if the county chose to not have us, then the county would have to make that decision. We could not do that.
Okay, but if the county made that decision, you're saying that you would not qualify for certain funds
We would be converted to a Class 1 facility, which would lose is it about $3.6 million?
Okay. Okay, that helps me a lot. I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
My privilege, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you. I'm looking at the budget, if I could, and I have some questions. In 2016, the actual total revenues were $31,300,000. For 2018, it's recommended that the total revenue would be $26,129,000. That's about a $5 million difference.
Yes.
That's 26 million.
Correct. Yeah, 26 million. I'm sorry. It's $5 million difference, and that's what I want to focus on. Why is it anticipated that in 2018? And here's what I want to point out: in 2015, it was $23 million, and then we jumped almost $8 million in 2016, and now in 2016, going to 2018, we're dropping $5 million. Can you explain that?
I can.
Okay, please.
It is. We received in that time, and we have in the last couple of years, something called certified public expenditure.
Okay.
Steve Schmiegel could probably spend a little bit of time talking about that, but essentially what happened is we pre-funded certain things that allowed us to take an expense for that. And as a government entity, when you exceed the amount of money that comes in, the federal government gives you some of that back, about 65%.
Okay.
So of that $16 million roughly, we over the few years after we had that expense, had that money come back. Now, because that money has to be audited, we don't include that in our budget because it's not certain that we get to keep that money. It's only after the Medicaid budget is audited.
Okay.
Now, we did have that audited in 2015, and that's real money. That's money, cash that actually came in. We had money coming in 2016 and this year as well. We did not include it in the budget because it's not going to be long-standing. We're having that as additional revenue. If we can use that for capital improvements, we're going to do that. We do represent the money coming in on our financials, but we don't budget it because we aren't sure that we get to keep it.
Okay.
I'll give you a specific example. This year, we had, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, about $330,000 clawed back on the audit. Is that correct? Okay. So even though we had the money come in, we had to give some of it back because there were certain expenses that they said, no, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay. Well, let me just follow up. Like, if I look at like your recommended revenues and then your recommended expenditures, I mean, you're showing you're going to break even. But when you look at like 2015, it actually operated at a loss. Are we, with what you just explained, and I sort of understand some of it, is there any anticipation that we're going to operate at a loss in 2018?
No. We will not operate at a loss in 2018. The reason we operated at a loss then was we had to take, there was a GASB, was it 86 and 87? Steve? There you are.
They had to record some liabilities for retiree health care in that year, so there's some GASB adjustments related to retiree health care, which also kind of ties into that revenue increase. They were able to take credit for their portion of the liability when we did the bonding.
Okay. I get that part of it. Okay. In terms of revenue increases, then, you don't know, you don't think we'll get back up to the 31 million mark at all?
No.
It'll be
Not
about
in the next couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Answer some of my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Happy to talk with you offline if you'd like some more.
This is very different from years ago when we were subsidizing Martha T to the tune of about $5 to $8 million a year. That's when changes occurred. Thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld. Are you? I withdrew. Thank you, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for you. Looking at the budget, does it, the lawsuit, I believe Martha T. Berry won a lawsuit and some funds came in, correct?
Oh, against the state? Yes, that actually happened a couple of years ago. Actually, that was a 10-plus year challenge, and that money came in last year and was transferred to our accounts last year. And in working with the county commissioners, we're using that money specifically to help with our capital improvements.
How much money was that?
That was 935 roughly.
I thought it was a million. Steve, can you help me out? There was a lawsuit for, if I'm not mistaken, $8-9 million, I thought that was coming back.
Not that I'm aware of.
At one time, there was a lawsuit that was filed, and there was anticipated funds coming back, so maybe it ended up being 900,000. I mean, there was a talk of $8-9 million, anybody who was on the board, that was supposed to, with Medicaid money, that was supposed to come back. Commissioner Toko, you remember it all?
Commissioner Carabelli, I remember numbers, but I don't think it was.
And there was discussion as far as
To that
where's that
extent.
money going because of the capital improvements that the county did.
Right.
And it's like, is that coming back to the general fund because we were putting money into it? You remember that discussion?
I can't address that directly. It's important that you know that once, that's not a swinging door. CMS requires that any money that comes back to the facility has to stay with the facility. So that's why we have to use that. If it goes out of that, then we actually have to reduce our expense, and then you have to pay it back.
Okay.
Okay.
So those funds, though, are allocated just in your fund balance at the end? Where did that show up, that additional funds? What year did that show up on your,
2016.
so 2016, your fund balance end of year, that's where the money should be in that line item?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it, do you know?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers that I know of, do we have a motion to receive and file? We have a motion to receive and file by Drollet, support by Kraft. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion and support. Please vote. This is to receive and file. Thank you, Kevin. Well done.
Thank you, Mr.